everyone, Sherry Miller here today, and I feel strange with no bird sounds. I just realized that. Wow, it's way too quiet. Anyway, today I am going to be elaborating on some of the things that I talked about yesterday that people have asked questions about. There's actually been a lot of really great questions, and I'm not going to cover them all in here. Hi, Tracy. Great to see you. Hi, Barbara. Awesome. And I'll continue to answer questions both, in the post itself and then throughout the lives. But today I wanted to talk about one of the first questions I got, which was more about bailing. What do I mean by bailing? And, how do you know if you're bailing on your clients or your students or anything else? And just some issues around that. And then people have also asked about relief, release, and resolve, and I can actually kind of tie these two together. I think we'll see what comes out, but I think I can tie those fairly neatly into one live, and we'll see where it goes from there. So I mentioned bailing yesterday as it happens over life, but I was talking about it in the context of if you're a mentor or coach or teacher, and the most likely time to bail is right at what would be the moment of growth for the person that you're helping. And I talked a little bit about the reason for that is because in the moment of growth, that person is going to be triggered. They're going to be in a higher energy level, and that's going to do the same to you. It's going to raise the energy. It's going to cause stuff to happen because of the mirroring that goes on. There's a lot of beautiful reasons for that to happen, but you're going to have a physiologic response when the person you're helping is at their point of growth, and there's no way for them to get to their point of growth without getting to their edges and getting feeling nervousness and anxiety. So that's going to translate to you, and it's in that time that I would say that just people in general, just day to day walking through life, bail in little ways hundreds of times a day, and it's not that big of a deal, but we do it. We just don't have an awareness of it. And so we do it. We bail in little ways all the time with those that we're helping to grow. But that's one of the bigger ways is in this moment of growth. And yet still, I think most people in this leadership position don't really realize that they're bailing. So some indications that you're bailing is that when the person you're helping is in their stress point, if you start doing things like throwing a bunch of explanations at them, you had already explained it in one way, and now you explain it another way and another way, and you start throwing a lot of words at it, you're bailing out of the energy. You're bailing out of the pressure of the moment. It's disguised as helping them, but it's really bailing on the energetic process that's needing to happen because it's uncomfortable. And the point of growth is, it's a lot of what Andrew talks about. It's that moment of silence. It's that moment of suspended time. And in the case of growth, it's the moment, I talked about this in the Let the Butterflies Come video, it's the moment where between the time where they know what they need to do and they have the courage and the energy to do it. So there's a process that's happening there, and then we interrupt it with throwing explanations at them because we get nervous. We start doubting. It brings up our stuff, and we don't want to feel our own stuff while they're going through theirs. So if you start trying to explain things, the biggest symptom is if you start trying to save them. Explaining them is kind of saving them, but if you want to save them, right? If you want to pat them and give them a hug and help them. I'm not saying that hugs are bad. There's a time and a place for it, but not in this moment. And so this desire to save them is you bailing out of the energy. It's like, I can't take it anymore. I have to change it. And so it really interrupts their process that they need to go through. Bailing is also when you were in that moment and in an open strength and watching with soft eyes, but then all of a sudden you can't watch, you look away, the energy drops. That's bailing. Changing the topic or feeling a need to change the topic, feeling like maybe they needed something other than what you were telling them. Again, that's doubt creeping in. That's bailing and not letting the process happen. So these are all escapes. These are, I'm going to tie this in. This does tie in to relief, release, and resolve. So these types of things are the leader in the scenario seeking relief. They're an escape out of the pressure of the situation. And not only does this prevent you from, from letting that person have their moment of growth and from being a part of that. Hello, Brenda. I think it's Brenda. It also adds energy to the whole system, stuck energy to the system. So when you feel the pressure of the energy building in this moment, because it is pressure and the energy is building, when you feel that and then you escape out of it, now that energy, you escaped the immediate pressure, but you took that energy with you. And your student or client took that energy with them. So now we have all the energy that led to the stress in the first place, all the stuck energy, plus more that we added on top of it. And this is actually why aggression is addictive. Aggressive behavior is addictive because aggressive behavior is the immediate relief. It's the immediate out from the pressure. It's the I couldn't flow that energy, so I just popped it out. But it didn't enable you to flow. So it's still around. There was kind of that immediate backing away from the pressure, but you haven't increased your capacity to flow that. So it's going to come back to haunt you, but in a bigger way than it did before, which causes more of a feeling to have that aggressive reaction again. So it gets to be that's kind of the cycle of addiction. And so relief is, and it's the instinctual response. It's a lot of times it's your brain leaping in with crazy thoughts. It can be just the explosive energy. It can be all kinds of things, but it's stuff that you later say, I don't know why I did that, right? It's just your instinctual response. And release is an ability to flow some of that energy and let it go into the system. So it decreases the pressure in a much more productive way. And relief in our lives in general, our breathing and yoga and meditation and all these things that we do, all the body work, all the wonderful energy work that people are doing in this group are forms of release. And as a teacher or a mentor or a leader, if you have some awareness of the stuff that I'm talking about, a lot of times you'll opt for release instead of bailing, which is better. You might help the person to breathe. You might help them to become present again. And all these kinds of things. This is really, really good. It's definitely a step up from the relief. but there's not resolve in release. Whatever triggered the uptick in energy, the stress response, is still going to trigger it the next time, because there's been no increase in the capacity to flow that energy. So the third thing that can happen is resolve. And resolve is when we allow it to build until there's enough of it to cause a change, to build a deeper channel, to make a new path, to cause a change in our capacity to carry and flow energy, to move with, a higher level of energy. And that's when we actually get resolve. And release can help with resolve for sure, because it can take a little bit of the pressure off, so you can let that process happen and get to resolve. So release is a really good thing. I'm not knocking release, but it's not enough. All the things that we do for release in and of themselves are not going to cause that change that leads to complete resolve and a much higher level feeling of well-being. We often experience a higher level feeling of well-being when we're doing release things, because in the moment it does definitely feel better, and often those release leads or allows resolve to happen, and so we feel like the increased well-being came directly from the release. I would say it's a little more indirect. It came because the release allowed the resolve to happen. But the increased well-being really comes around resolve. Long-term increased well-being comes around resolve. So that you can always apply it. It's always meta, and I'm never sure what level to talk on. You can apply this, directly to yourself, or you can apply it to yourself helping someone else, which adds another level of complexity, but it's the same thing happening to both of you. So when we're moving along, doing all these little bales all the time, we're really, like I said yesterday about how I'm comparing this to, we only use 20% of our brain. I don't know that I actually agree with that statistic, because I believe our brain is for a different purpose than what that statistic is saying. But I get the concept of we only use 20% of our brain. And I would say that because we do so much bailing, we only use 20% of our capacity energetically to help others to grow. So when we're constantly doing these little bales or the big bales in a bigger moment, these are all the times where we could have led the people we're helping to a much deeper, much quicker, much better result. And so even if you're already really good at this, if you go, wow, wherever I'm at, I'm only using 20% or 30% or 40% of my capacity, imagine what you could do if you start understanding how all this works and working on perfecting the components of it and putting it all together. When we understand it, we can start making it into an art that we develop, just the same as dance or music or energy work or anything else. This is just an art that you develop, a process and a skill that you develop. Someone spoke about that too. It says, Tracy, someone spoke about, can you elaborate? There's going to be a time lag. What was I just saying that you might have been referring to? Probably the resolve, the release and the resolve. Someone was maybe not using those words, but speaking about that. I'll have to wait and see if a comment comes through, because there's always such a delay on the Facebook. So equal resolve. Yeah, so they must have also been maybe realizing that the release work is not the equivalent of resolve, that you need to go a step further to get the resolve. I'm just assuming. So, and that's good. When people realize that, that's a good thing. And people that are doing all this release work with breathing and body work and yoga and all that can take their students and clients to the point of resolve. You can start at that work and get them to resolve. They're not two separate things that have to be done by two separate people in two separate places and times. They very much work very well together, but that's a choice to take it further than just the release. Or you can just help them with releases so that they can work on their resolve elsewhere. It's all beautiful. It's all helpful. It all takes us closer to where we want to be. So, all beautiful things. They get a resolve and the client gets a resolve. Yes, that's what you're talking about. So that just to use really general terms, the leader and the led are both brought to a very similar place energetically in this process. Absolutely. And there's no way for the leader to move through it unchanged when they're helping someone else move through it, right? You're gonna both be going through that process. So every time someone that you're helping is going through it, they're taking you to your own edge that you have to move through. So it's very beautiful. That's why this work is so beautiful. And that's why I started off in all my lives talking about the beauty. I probably started off backwards. I should have talked about the energetics and led to beauty instead of talking about beauty and eventually getting to energetics. But, to tie it all back into the beauty that I'm always talking about, beauty is, by my definition, and I would like to, I don't know if you can prove these sort of things, but anyway, by my definition, beauty is the flow of energy. It's the experience of the sudden release of energy that was previously stuck. Whenever we have that experience, whether we're observing something or we're in it ourselves, if whatever you were in or whatever you saw caused a sudden release of energy in you that was previously stuck, you're going to say, beautiful. That was beautiful. 20% capacity. Yes, we got to perfect some more components, definitely. 20% dance capacity. That might be okay. I'm going to talk more about, ask you more about that, Barbara. I'm curious. So yeah, that's the resolve is the biggest moment of beauty, right? It's the biggest sudden flow because we deepened the channel or widened the channel for the energy, and now more can flow. And that's, the glorious moment. Actually, the most glorious moment is the one right before that, which is the statue of David, right? But the second most glorious moment is when it deepened and went, and the smile came, and the flow happened. So this is beauty. Oh, the dance of energy. Yes. For a minute here, Barbara, in my head, I was thinking, are you a dancer? Because several people have interacted with me that are dancers, and I didn't know if you literally meant dancing, but the dance of energy to resolve. Yes, and it is very much a dance, a back and forth, a flow, an energetic transaction. And yes, I believe we're only using, just to throw out a number, 20% of it, including me. So we're not all 20%. Some are 15, some are 25. But I'm just saying that we use a very small percent. And the more I understand how this works, the less capacity I feel like I'm using of it. I feel like I go backwards, not in a bad way, but I'm just like, I don't feel like I go backwards. I feel like if I had thought I was 20% and I only had 80% to go, then the more I learn, I go, oh, maybe I was only 10% and I have 90% more that I could do. Wow, that's really cool. So it's not really a feeling of going backwards. It's a feeling of, oh, there's even more. Wow. All right. Used to be then, but couldn't move for years. Yeah. Oh, you did used to be a dancer. Maybe that's why I'm thinking of that. And couldn't move for years. And not being able to move is stress and fear are just the sensations of not being able to move well in the scenario. So it sounds overly simplistic when I say that, but that's really what it is. It's just not being able to move well. I'm just thinking if there's more that I should say on bailing. Just a little bit of some of what happens because of bailing. If you ever end up in a place where you have to send a client or a student on to someone else because you couldn't help them anymore, I would say it's highly, highly likely just a matter of you were bailing too much. If the people that you're helping if you feel anxiety around them, like you kind of dread getting on that call or dread meeting them or dread having an encounter with them, it's because they trigger your bailing, and then you feel really uncomfortable because you bail, right? And if you get all excited about taking people on that you're going to help, and the first couple times are like really fantastic and really super and fun, and there's a lot of excitement and a lot of energy, and then you feel like you cannot go on anymore, probably they're getting to a point of deeper energy and a deeper process that needs to happen, and you're not yet prepared to sit in that and allow that process to happen and even push it more. The most beautiful teachers and leaders in the world actually increase the stress until there's enough to get the change. And so if you experience that high and then the crash and you don't want to work with them anymore, that's probably what is happening, is you're just bailing on energy that needs to be processed. So it's a problem. It's what makes us feel like, I'm not good enough and there's something wrong and I can't do it. And it's a real problem for us as leaders to, have to go through that. And when you start understanding what is happening, even if you can't fix it in the moment, you can step out of the I'm not good enough and say, hi, Ashley, cool, neat to see you here. You can step out of that moral judgment on it and just say, oh, this is what's happening with the energy. I don't yet have the capacity to flow that. I'm going to go back and work on it. And then what I help people to do is to use their body and their grounding and their movement and their intentions to increase that capacity so they're not as easily knocked off balance the next time that it happens. So I don't know if anyone else has any more questions on that. There's always after you have a live that's like really fun and exciting and cool, there's always kind of the lull in the next one. That's just part of the wave of energy, I think. So today is just kind of, calm, answer a few questions, think it through. Tomorrow I have another really cool concept that I believe will be fairly mind-blowing for people that come on here. It's going to involve goats and sheep and foxes and show you what they totally have to do with your well-being. And it's really super fun and really neat, and I'm really excited about it. But I'm learning to ride the waves and take advantage of them. And so I wanted the little lull today so that we can come back with another thing tomorrow and not have it be like, kind of too much. I'm still letting the stuff from yesterday sink in a little bit, and then I'm going to add this next piece. So I'm really excited about tomorrow. It's going to be fun. What? That's right. Goats and sheep and foxes. and what they're going to teach you about well-being. What they're not what they're going to teach you, what they're going to demonstrate to you. I wish I could show YouTube videos in a Facebook Live. That would be really fun. But anyway, I'll show you pictures. So it'll be really cool. So if you guys are interested in that and you want more excitement again, tomorrow I'll be on again. I don't know, this time maybe a little bit earlier, because there's a couple other people that also wanted to watch and it's too late for them, or they wanted to be a part of it and it's too late for them. So I might come on a little bit earlier. But anyway, you can watch it at any time and it will be very fun. Okay? Thanks for watching today, and if you have any questions, just pop them down below and I'll answer them as I get time. Thank you. Bye-bye.